Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Hello there, Duke fans, and welcome to episode number 552 of the DBR podcast, Duke Basketball Roundup. It is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. This is like the 97th day in a row that we've been in your feeds to give you something, content related to Duke basketball. And, of course, we're going to recap the Duke football game last night. Before we get into all that, I am Donald Wine. I'm your host for this episode. That man alongside me, at least in my Zoom, you guys can't see him, but I can. Jason Evans. Jason, good morning, sir.
Hey, thanks for the laugh. This does feel like 97 days in a row that we've done a podcast. We need to take the weekend off, my friend.
We're going to take it off for like a day because we have the stats game coming later this weekend, and then the season starts. So yeah, get your rest in this afternoon, I guess, Jason, because the season is right around the corner and we do not stop. So with that, let's get into the basketball portion of this episode. The opening game, less than 72 hours away, and it is against the Dartmouth Big Green. That's right. Dartmouth is coming to Cameron on Monday night to face the Blue Devils. Last year, they finished 6th in the Ivy League. They were 10-18. They're ranked 260th in KenPom. At least they ended the season that way. And this season, they open up about 267th. So they're not really, they're about level with where they were last year, but Jason and I are going to talk about some of the guys that are coming back, how Dartmouth has kind of performed against teams of this caliber, because Duke is obviously going to be the best team that Dartmouth faces this season. But Jason, I'll start with you. Give us a little bit of what you got on Dartmouth, and you can even start with how they've traditionally performed in the past leading up to this particular game against the Blue Devils.
Yeah, let me begin with that. So this will be the first time that the Big Green has played a ranked opponent since November of 2018, when they faced the University of Buffalo. Buffalo was ranked number 22 in the land in November of 2018, and Dartmouth played them. If you think playing Buffalo is not a great example of what it's like to compete against a top 5 Duke team, then let's go back just a little bit more than that. The last time Dartmouth played a team ranked in the top 5 was November of 2006. They played Kansas in November of 2006. So it has been a while since Dartmouth took on a team the caliber of Duke. By the way, this is the first time they played the Blue Devils ever. We play Ivy League teams all the time. Somehow Duke has never managed to face off against Dartmouth.
Well, we usually kind of have a rotation, right? We kind of have the Yale, Harvard when there's no Tommy Amaker, Princeton, we've played them a couple of times. Columbia, I think we played, way back, but it's usually like a rotation of like 2 or 3 of the Ivy League schools.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little bit surprised when I saw that. I was like, wow, really? I can't believe that it's been that long. That they've, well, not that long, but that they've never played Duke before. This is a experienced team, the Dartmouth team, mostly juniors and seniors in the rotation. There's one sophomore who's probably going to play a fair bit for them. But they returned 4 starters from last season. So you'd expect them to play about the same way this year that they did last year. It's worth noting that last year they were just 10-18. So they may bring a lot of guys back, but they bring a lot of guys back from a team that was just 10-18 overall and a lower middle, Ivy League team. They did lose a lot of close games last year, so their poor record could be a little bit deceiving. It is worth noting, I said they bring back 4 starters. the one they lost was their leading scorer and rebounder. So they bring back 4 starters, but they lost their best player. So that matters a lot. Their best returnees, the 2 names that you'll probably hear the most in this game, point guard Ryan Cornish and forward Dusan Neskovic. Both of them, Neskovic, by the way, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Shout out to Bosnia. Both of them were double-digit scorers, like 12-point per game scores a year ago, and you would expect them to be Dartmouth's leading scorers this season. They are guys who do not mind firing away from deep. They shoot a fair number of three-pointers, around 4 or so three-pointers a game from each one of those guys. And Neskovic can really hit it. He hit 41% of his threes last season. Donald, I know you had, I've got a bunch of other stuff about them, but I know you had some stuff on specific players to look out for and such. So I was getting into your territory. Go ahead and take it for a minute.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Ryan Cornish. Shout out Sidwell Friends. He played there in high school, so man can play. It's not like he's just a brainiac in the classroom. He's also very good in the basketball court and is kind of crafty with how he plays. He led the team in assists last year and minutes per game, so he's going to be on the floor a lot. You mentioned Neskovic. He's a guy who's going to be in the mix. Jaron Johnson, also a guy who led the team in free throw percentage, shot about 91%. So, hey, if you're trying to foul someone, the guy that says Johnson on the back, don't do him because he's going to go to the line. He's probably going to make his free throws. And I think the other guy that you have to look out for is Brandon Mitchell-Day. He's a sophomore. He was kind of the only freshman that was really in the main mix of the rotation last year. We expect to see a lot more of him, especially considering, as you mentioned, Dame Adelakun, who was their leading scorer and rebounder last year, is gone. Brandon Mitchell is going to be that guy who hopefully helps pick up some of the scoring slack. I think one thing to remember about Dartmouth, or at least to know about Dartmouth, because we've never played them before, as you mentioned, they're not a huge team. They do have a few guys at like 6'8", 6'6". They're not going to have a bunch of tall guys. Their only guy who's really, really tall is Nikola Dimitrievich, who is 6'10". So what does that mean, Jason? That small lineup that we saw quite a bit against UNC Pembroke, I think we're going to see that again against Dartmouth. I think we're going to probably see Jeremy Kane start. We'll probably see a lot of rotations that involve the big men rotating in for each other and not alongside each other. We may see a couple times where you see Ryan Young'em flip, but I think you're going to see mainly a smaller lineup, at least to start the season for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, you're totally. My very next point was going to be that they're not a big team, and that plays into Duke's hand. Dartmouth mostly plays a 3-guard lineup. You can be almost guaranteed that Duke is going to respond with our own 3-guard lineup. It is worth noting that Dartmouth is a team that does play their bench a good bit. Last year, they had one of the deepest benches in all of college basketball. No one on the team last year, no one, even with those experienced returning starters and such, that last year no one averaged even 27 minutes a game. I don't think you'll see any Dartmouth players playing around 30 minutes in this game against Duke. Looking at sort of what kind of a team they were last year, I think can tell us a bit, because there's so many guys coming back. I think it can tell us a bit of what kind of team they will be this season. And last season, they were a team that actually played kind of fast. They were 105th in tempo, not afraid to push the ball up the floor, not afraid to push you defensively into taking a shot quickly on the shot clock. They had a real problem with turnovers a year ago. They committed turnovers on slightly more than 20% of their possessions. That's a big number. That's a problematic number for any team. And I guarantee you, this is a Duke team that puts a lot of pressure on the perimeter. That 3-guard lineup, we have to. We don't have any big shot blockers on this team. So Duke defensively is going to try and turn you over on the outside as opposed to try and make you miss a shot on the inside. And I think that's something that could be a real problem for Dartmouth because it's something they were bad at a year ago. They are a very poor, at least a year ago, Dartmouth was a very poor offensive rebounding team, grabbed just 23% of their missed shots. But sort of strangely, they were a good defensive rebounding team. They did not allow many offensive rebounds. They did a nice job of blocking shots as well. These are sort of the things that Dartmouth does the best on defense. They clearly play good team defense. And I think, the computers say this is going to be a mismatch. Dartmouth comes in number 267 in KenPom, and KenPom expects Duke to win 83-58. I actually think there's a chance this could be a slightly closer game than that, believe it or not, I won't be surprised if Dartmouth keeps this game within about 20 points or so. Just the fact that they are a pretty experienced team, I think will probably bode well for them in this early season game. Duke, I think Duke will see this game as an opportunity to play the freshmen, the young guys, a good bit and really get them some experience. So, my bet would be it's a game where Duke sort of gets out to a comfortable lead, but then doesn't stretch that lead out a tremendous amount. Because again, I think that you're going to see Duke playing the freshmen a lot. Really, let Caleb Foster, let Sean Stewart, certainly Jared McCain, let those guys really stretch their legs in real competition against a Division I opponent.
When you think about an Ivy League team, you think about a team that's scrappy. You think about a team that's not going to quit. You think about a team that plays hard from whistle to whistle, and Dartmouth is going to be no exception. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like to me it's going to be a huge win. We're not going to win this game by 65. I'd love that, but don't expect that on Monday night. I think what you expect is a team who, we may get out to a comfortable lead, but Dartmouth is not going anywhere. They're going to try and shoot their way back into the game. We can't take them for granted. It's, Ivy League teams have picked off teams in the NCAA tournament before. Yale had that run. Harvard's had a couple of small runs. Princeton's had a couple small runs. So expect Dartmouth to play the same. That sort of crafty, again, not necessarily balls to the wall, but they're going to, play very, very hard. And you're not going to, let you beat them by 45 or 50 points unless you're actually, making your shot. So I'm looking forward to that. But Jason, before we get out of here on this is the opening game of the season. We usually don't do this on the show, but I want to ask you, we've had all the quote unquote secret scrimmages, the quote unquote raw cuts. We've had the blue-white scrimmage. We've had the exhibition game. We've had the secret scrimmage against Villanova. And now we open the gift that is the regular season. As we enter the season, what are you most looking forward to on Monday from this team? What are you most looking forward to seeing from this team?
Oh, wow. I mean, there are so many different things. I think you can't help but be intrigued and excited almost every season at Duke by the freshmen. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get out of the four freshmen that I think all four of them will see time in this game. I'm really eager to see if Sean Stewart can continue to do what he was doing in the second half of that scrimmage. I think it could be a big lift for Duke if Sean Stewart is able to give them meaningful minutes at the five, especially playing as athletically as he does above the rim in the air in a way that, frankly, Duke's other big men just don't play that way. And so I think that could be a big deal. And then the other thing is, just coming off of everything we've heard, everything we saw, I'm excited for Jared McCain. I don't know how you could not be excited to watch his creativity. His reputation, Donald, I don't know if you remember when he committed, all we talked about was outside shooting. This guy's going to bury the outside shot. He's a shooter. And I don't know that we haven't really seen that yet so far from him. Not that he's, not that he hasn't shown that he's a good outside shooter, but we've seen so much more creativity with the ball and ability to get the ball into spaces. Yeah, I talked so much about his understanding of the geometry of the game. So I'm really, I think that's to me, that's almost more fun to watch than a guy who bombs away from the perimeter. So those are the two guys I'm really excited and interested in seeing play.
For me, I think we've talked about this quite a bit over the summer and the fall. I'm ready. I'm most looking forward to seeing how this team embraces the expectations that we and so many others, and even probably themselves, have placed upon them. The expectation that this is going to be an elite basketball team this season in college basketball. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that. Everyone talks about those first 4 minutes of a college season, kind of like you want to get out to a fresh start. I want to see what the middle 10 minutes look like, because those are the times where, you get the hot start at the beginning of the half, you get the hot, into a first half, you get the hot start to the start of the second half. But it's those middle 10 minutes that you're kind of like, oh man, I want to see what this team can do when, Sports Center's not breaking in saying, oh, let's look at Duke, number 2 team. I want to see what those expectations look like for them when they take a big lead and how they handle that. So yeah, it's the first game of the season, but it's one of those where you're like, I want to see how that works out and how we learn how to compete with that, even against Dartmouth, because it's not like Dartmouth is the strongest team in our schedule. And as we mentioned, the schedule is going to be quick and fast. We are a week away as we record on Friday, November 3rd. We are a week away from playing Arizona. So
yeah, exactly.
This season goes from 1 to 3 million very quickly. And I want to see how they start the season, especially playing in both halves, those middle 10 minutes, how they embrace the pressure of being the number 2 team in the country. So, yeah.
I mean, you talk about the schedule and you don't want to look ahead. That is bad form. But we played Dartmouth, and then we have Arizona and Michigan State back to back. I mean, come on. This team is taking a big old bite of the apple right out of the gate.
Yeah. And we're looking forward to all of it. We will start by looking forward to Dartmouth, which is Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time I think it was on ESPN.
I think it's ACC. I think it's ACC Network.
ACC Network. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
But greatly for you people on the West Coast, you get to get off work and then come home and watch your Blue Devils. You don't have to do it during the last hour or so at work. So we will leave it there. We will take a quick break. On the other side, Duke football, bowl eligible. You know what time it is. We'll talk about the Blue Devils after this. We are back and we move to the gridiron. The Duke Blue Devils are bowl eligible. They win last night in epic fashion, in kind of a walk-off fashion, 24-21 over the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Jason, this was a very, very fun game to watch. By fun, I mean very not fun. This was a very, it was a chore to watch. It was a battle.
Yeah.
We had Riley Leonard, who it was announced right before the game that he is out for an extended period of time due to a toe injury.
But by the way, dude, did you see what happened to the gambling line, the betting line? So Duke was a 12.5-point favorite over Wake Forest when everyone thought Riley Leonard was going to play. They announced that Riley Leonard wasn't playing, and the line fell to, I think, 5.5 or 6. Like it literally, like they're like, oh, Duke's not going to have Riley Leonard. They're a touchdown worse without him. Like, oh right. My God.
But that, like, I'm sure that was something that we knew, or the team knew was going to happen. But for us, it was a shock to hear that just before the game, that he's out for an extended period of time. They even went so far as to say as his return this season is in question. That's how bad of a toe injury this apparently is, coupled with the ankle injury that he already had. Like, McMahon, get that man well, please. Like, it's just devastating for him as a player. And I know he's feeling it as far as, wanting to be out there to play. We know he's a competitor. He's come back from that ankle injury twice now, and now he has the toe injury. It's terrible for him. But in his place, Henry Beelan, who had started a game in Riley Leonard's absence, is also hurt. So we had to go to the third string. Grayson Loftus, freshman.
True freshman. Wait, not just a freshman. True freshman. Not even a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he had some mop-up duty against Louisville at the end of the Louisville game last week, but this was his first career start. Jason, I'm just going to give you his stat line. We're going to go from there. 7 for 19 for 86 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. And I don't say that to bag on the kid, because the kid
he had a fumble too. I think
and a fumble
too. Yeah.
I'm not saying that to bag on the kid. I'm saying that to say that a team with that stat line at the quarterback position won this football game. It is the grit that this team showed to come back not once, not twice, but 3 times, and then have a walk-off kick on, from Todd Polino with 2 seconds left. I am so proud of how this team battled through this, because there was a lot of times during this game where it just felt like this was not going Duke's way. And even, I mean, they were playing hard, they were staying with it, but just the hits kept coming. We still had a lot of guys on both lines that were out due to injury. Graham Barton still out.
We're missing like 8 starters or something like that.
Yeah. And again, like the backup quarterback who would have started is also out. So like most teams don't come back from that. And so for this team to battle with, again, a true freshman playing in his first start, guys, weren't catching the ball. There was a lot of things that were going wrong for the Blue Devils, but they didn't let that get to them. And I'm super proud of how they battled back and won this game, which, like I said, makes them bowl eligible. Thing that we thought was a mere formality a few weeks ago before all these injuries started piling up. And now we are again celebrating the fact that Duke will be playing in the postseason at the end of the season.
Yeah. And it's worth noting in the preseason, if you said to someone, "Oh, Duke's going to be 6-3 after they defeat Wake Forest," people would have been like, "Really, 6-3? You sure?" Because the expectations were that our schedule this season was so difficult that it was going to be a real challenge for Duke to even get bowl eligible. And here we are with 3 games left in the schedule, and we're already there. So even though a couple weeks ago, you were talking about, is Duke playing in a New Year's Day game? Is Duke playing for the ACC title? These were things on the table for this team before injuries just started destroying any cohesion that they had. It's still a tremendous accomplishment for this team to be able to get that 6th win. And I think they still have, a win or 2 left in them, even without, even perhaps or likely without Riley Leonard. Look, to me, the story of the game, and it's been the story of almost the whole season, was the Duke defense. It was, there's some games where they don't even bend. This was a game where they bent but didn't break on repeated occasions. And I just want to let people know, if you weren't noticing, in the 4th quarter, here's what Wake, with the game on the line, here's what Wake Forest did on their possessions in the 4th quarter. They had a 3-play drive that ended in a fumble. They then had a 3-play drive that ended in a punt. They then got a little longer. They had a 5-play drive that also ended in a punt. And then they had the game was tied at 21, and they had a 6-play drive that ended in an interception. So 2 punts, 2 turnovers in the 4th quarter. Duke defense, they were not going to let Wake get in position to win this game. And that's, we've seen that from them all season long. And they just continue to be the best part of this Duke team this year. And you have to tip your hat to Todd Polino. I know that was a short field goal that he made, but Duke wins this game because Todd Polino made that short kick, while the Wake field goal kicker, Matthew Dennis, for the first time in his career, missed a field goal of less than 30 yards and missed another one of less than 40. And then the other thing is I wanted to thank Wake Forest for gifting Duke huge chunks of yards on penalties in our last possession. I mean, a Duke team that was struggling on offense the whole game really, looked like they were only running the ball was all they were really trying to do for the most part, because Grayson Loftus was having some trouble, finding receivers downfield. Frankly, Jalen Calhoun, an incredibly experienced and accomplished wide receiver, was dropping passes like poor Grayson Loftus is having trouble getting the ball, to anyone but a running back. And he hits Jalen Calhoun in the hands a couple times, and dude drops him. I'm sure Jalen feels awful about that. And we've seen him be way better than that. But I want, again, back to my point, I wanted to thank Wake for gifting Duke about 25 yards or so on the last drive with a pass interference and a roughing, or on a tackle. They tackled too aggressively, I guess you would say. So, but as much as Loftus's first few series were a nightmare, he came together as the game moved on, and I thought he looked fairly decent at times.
He had one drive where it was he looked great, going down the field, at least, not necessarily making every pass, but he was at least moving the football down the field. And when you're calling audibles and stuff on the line, that's where a freshman can get nervous. And he showed a lot of poise as the game moved on, because again, it wasn't the best stat line, but he was able to hold it together. And hey, now he can look back and he go, yo, 1-0 as a starter. I can retire right here.
Exactly. And we have to, we can't be done with this game without talking about Jaquez Moore and Jordan Waters, who I thought both of them were grinding out the yards on the ground. And Wake knew that it was going to be a rushing attack primarily. Look, Duke's already, even with Riley Leonard back there, Duke's a team that relies on the run more than they do the pass. And with Grayson Loftus back there, they were really going to rely on the rush. And Jaquez Moore and Jordan Waters each ran for better than 75 yards in a Duke rushing attack that came close to reaching 200 yards rushing on the game. Anytime you can get that 180, 190, 200 yards rushing as a team, you're going to be in a contest. And it allowed Duke, in a game where we were not getting a lot of first downs early, where we were struggling with the pass late in the game, especially in the second half, I felt like Duke did a nice job of controlling the clock, not allowing our defense to get tired, and gutted out that win. I'll take it any way you can get it. 24-21 looks beautiful to me.
I think the best part about this win is that it relieves a ton of pressure. They're not going to have to worry about people every week going, hey, you're going to get to that 6th win, or you're going to get to that 6th win, because as we know, next Saturday, Duke faces UNC on the road. And that's the biggest game remaining on their schedule. They also have UVA, who's been playing well as of late. And then they also end the season with Pitt. So now they can play those 3 games and they can relieve pressure, hopefully get some guys back that have been injured, get them back healthy for the end of the season and for the bowl season, I should say. And I like the fact that we got it done when we needed to, so that we can get it out of the way. I was talking to my dad last night and was like, man, I'm glad that's over with. Like, we don't have to worry about that anymore. And now they can just focus on getting healthy and playing out the rest of the season. And again, you rack up a couple more wins, maybe 1 or 2 more wins, that changes the bowl game that you end up in. They can, we're not talking about New Year's Day bowls anymore, but hey, there's still some really good bowl games out there, cool destinations that Duke players and fans and families would love to spend their Christmas holiday in. So congratulations to the Duke Blue Devils and Mike Elko and the staff. 6-3 in the season, 3-2 in the ACC. Jason, we'll leave it there on episode 552 of the DBR podcast. Again, check us out on Twitter at Duke Roundup. On Monday, when we have our game, please send headlines there. You can send them to dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Home field apparel. Look out for something that they're doing next week involving the Duke Blue Devils. We're very excited about all the stuff they already have. Go check them out. Fanatics, a ton of stuff ready for the season.
By the way, when they're on home field, put in the code DBR podcast and they will get, did they get like a 15% discount?
15% off.
Yeah.
You save money. We like saving money, and we like that you get to save money by using us. So DBR podcast, use that code at homefield.com, homefieldapparel.com, I should say. Now, stay in tune with us. DBR podcast at gmail.com. For Jason Evans, I'm down the line. This has been the DBR podcast, and now it is time for the Duke Band to take us home.